What the American public needs to understand and what we know is that 77 million people voted for exactly what President Trump is executing right now. The faux outrage from the left continues to ignore the damage that has been done to our country and people that are literally maiming our fellow Americans while we have done nothing and we stood by idly. We are now acting and behaving in a way that enforces the law.
Thank you so much. It's interesting that we're being accused of wanting all kinds of criminals to be on the streets, or that we don't believe that people should show up to their meetings and appointments. Last time I checked, there's a lot of people that are actually being grabbed as they are going in for their appointments. In fact, we know that one of the candidates that was recently running in this mayoral, he ended up being arrested because he decided that he was actually going to escort people that are actually showing up to their meetings. Or we know that the Pope, yes, the Pope himself, decided that the church may need to have people that are going to escort people as they're going into their meetings. Because the reality is that what they are claiming what they want to do versus what they're actually doing, the actions don't match up.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see what's going on. It's right there in plain sight. The true colors of Republican family values shining through.
This is not xenophobia. This is the way and the process that it takes to enter a sovereign nation, and we at the federal government must protect that. I am somebody that has deployed all over the world. No other country operates this way. There is not a single country in the world that would allow 20 million people to enter their country illegally, and then when we do something about it, we then cry xenophobia.
That, yes, we will say people are xenophobic, because when you start to decide that just because somebody came from another country, they are automatically some kind of criminal, that does sound kind of xenophobic to me, because you are using a paintbrush to paint an entire group of people where the vast majority of them are coming here because they are actually seeking a better life. But let me get to what this hearing is supposed to be about. The idea that Trump and my Republican colleagues want to restore integrity and security in the visa process is actually a joke. Let me be clear. Integrity is not snatching lawful visa holders off the streets and throwing them into unmarked vans. Integrity is not revoking visas based on social media posts that hurt somebody's little feelings because kids decide that they want to go after Trump or this administration. We have a thing called free speech in this country.
Putting profits over people, bootlicking billionaires, voting no to release the Epstein files, and voting no on a bill that would have brought disaster relief to his own flood-prone district. Wesley Hunt is a sellout, trading morals, dignity, integrity, and the soul of this country like Judas for a bag of silver. And Jasmine Crockett, she blew the damn roof off of this illusion. She tore the mask off that Trump enabler and exposed the ugly truth of what this really is.
And since we're talking about integrity, I'm confused as to why my Republican colleagues aren't talking about the lack of integrity when it comes to the president's family's visas. Let me remind y'all that Melania, the First Lady, a model, and when I say model, I'm not talking about Tyra Banks, Cindy Crawford, or Naomi Campbell level, applied for and was given an EB-1 visa. And what that stands for is an Einstein visa. Now, y'all that don't know, let me tell you how you receive an Einstein visa. You're supposed to have some sort of significant achievement, like being awarded a Nobel Peace Prize or a Pulitzer, being an Olympic medalist, or having other sustained extraordinary abilities and success in sciences, arts, education, business, or athletics. Last time I checked, the First Lady had none of those accolades under her belt. It doesn't take an Einstein to see that the math ain't mathin'.
And this hearing was a fiery showdown between two Texas representatives who couldn't be more different. On one side, you've got the voice of reason represented by Jasmine Crockett, the Democratic Party. You know, the party that keeps the buses running on time, the trains moving, the power on, the bills paid. The party that believes government should actually work for the people and not against them. Yeah, and on the other side, you've got a card-carrying Republican member of the so-called Family Values Party. The party that rips families apart at the border, that bears false witness by branding innocent people as criminals, that locks them up and calls it justice. The party that cheers cruelty, ignores Matthew 25, and still dares to call itself Christian. So when Hunt spewed his line about 77 million people voting for Trump's deportation machine, Jasmine Crockett didn't flinch. She didn't let that hypocrisy slide, not even for a second. We're not going to round up human beings and dehumanize them just to make Donald Trump feel powerful. We're better than this. It was a clash of two Americas. They said that they respect the Constitution, but they're busy rigging democracy. Jasmine Crockett made it clear. What's happening in Texas isn't just a Texas problem. It's a national playbook. MAGA is redrawing lines to keep Trump loyalists in control of the House, because whoever controls the House controls the certification of the next election. They're not playing by the rules. They're rewriting them in order to cling to power. They said that they'd bring transparency, but all we got was cover-ups. Pam Bondi claimed that she had the Epstein files. Then suddenly, poof, there were no files. Watching her fumble through this is like a Scooby-Doo episode. Velma crawling on the floor, yelling, "Yankees, I lost my glasses," while everyone pretends they don't see the obvious. And just like in every single episode, when the kids finally catch the crook and pull the mask off, surprise, it's Donald Trump. Are you shocked, folks? Didn't think so. They said they stood for family values, but they rip families apart, dehumanize immigrants, gut health care for millions of Americans, and raise premiums for everyone else. Meanwhile, Wesley Hunt voted no on disaster relief for his own flood-prone district and no on food and health care as people rely on, all while bootlicking billionaires who will never feel those consequences. And when they get called out, they don't answer the truth. They sling mud. They attack the messenger. That's why Trump lashes out at Jasmine Crockett and AOC with low IQ insults. Because when you can't defend your record, all you've got left is a smear.
AOC, look, I think she's very nice, but she's very low IQ. And we really don't need low IQ. Between her and Crockett, we're going to give them both an IQ test to see who comes out best. Now, I took my test. I took a real test at Walter Reed Medical Center, and I aced it. I got every one of all those questions right. Now it's time for them to take a test.
What is your reaction to what he is saying?
It is absolutely ridiculous that I live rent-free in his mind in a time in which the American people are suffering. There's a lot of things he could be working on, but for some reason, he is constantly focused on me. And personally, I've never met the man. I have no interest in going to the White House and meeting him or talking to him.
That might surprise people that you've never met.
I have never met him, but for whatever reason, I live rent-free.
Jasmine Crockett doesn't even have to dignify his nonsense. She doesn't play in the mud. She stays focused on the people while he obsesses over her. And that drives him absolutely crazy. Because this is what power without purpose looks like. When you can't lead, when you can't deliver, when you can't defend your record, all you've got left is a smear. And that right there, that's Trump devotion syndrome. MAGA praying to a man who sells them out, worshiping a false idol while their lives fall apart. They call it patriotism, but it's a cult. You want to know the three branches of the MAGA government? It's not checks and balances anymore. It's pedophiles, corporations, and a con man at the top, making sure that the grift never stops. So here's the reality. Trump promised cheap eggs, no wars, trips to Mars, and exposing the bad guys. Instead, he covered for the powerful, gutted health care, and called a dementia test an IQ test. So now, MAGA stands frozen at that fork. They're stuck because there's no way out of this one. There's no clever spin, no whataboutism to hide behind. This is the reality that they have built. Cruelty dressed up as patriotism, corruption passed off as family values, and a con man selling them their own destruction. But let's be clear about one thing. Jasmine Crockett isn't here to play their game. She's not here to coddle their lies or bow to their cult. She's here to rip the mask off and show the world exactly what this really is. And we should all be grateful for leaders like her, because this is exactly what is needed right now. Courage, clarity, and someone who's not afraid to call this what it is. And that is an absolute fact. Sappers clear the way, airborne all the way.